You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
Hello, very good evening to you, and welcome to the final episode of the, not the final episode, but the final episode of the weekend. It's been a busy weekend, and we're here. I'm surprised the game's on tonight, actually, between Hearts and Aberdeen at Tynecastle, 8 o'clock kickoff. A bit before you watch that, however, a bit of the Scottish Football Zone with myself, Michael, Robbie, and Ethan. Hi guys, how are you? It's been a busy weekend.
It has. Obviously, we done the show last night as well. It's been a good weekend of action, but glad Scottish football's back, obviously, and it's good to be doing the shows again.
Yeah, as Robbie said, it's great to have domestic football back. Well, obviously we had the Premier Sports Cup, but it's not quite the same. This is the real nitty-gritty stuff. The leagues have started, and we've had some level of entertainment so far, and obviously building up to the main fixture of the card tonight. And hopefully it's a classic and a real advert for Scottish football going forward.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, as I say, this is the last game of the weekend from a busy weekend of football. Before we dive into looking at the Hearts Aberdeen game, Robbie has got the team news for tonight's game at Tynecastle.
Yeah, so for Hearts it is Zander Clark in goals, Frankie Kent, Craig Halkett, Lord Franklin is playing up front, Claudio Braga, Bob Gregovic. I think I've probably absolutely butchered that, to be honest. Devlin, Spittle, Milne, Finlay and McKenty, who I believe it's his first start for Hearts, including the Premier Sports Cup. That's the one thing I hate about these team news. They never put them in order. Absolutely never put them in order. On Aberdeen side, it is Mitov in goals. Then you've got Jensen, Milne, Noster, Graham Shinney is the captain, Nilsson, Clarkson, Milanovic, Achuche, Keskinen and Yenge.
Yeah, that's really annoying when the teams put on their graphic, they order it number instead of the actual lineup. But I imagine with Derek McInnes and Hearts, I think it's like a back 3/5 with 3 in midfield, and then obviously Lawrence Shankland and Claudio Braga up front. So yeah, Hearts have started the season really well. Aberdeen, we obviously don't know as much because they've not played any competitive games, although they've really strengthened. They've got obviously a few new signings in this, the starting 11, as you mentioned, Robbie. So it'll be interesting to see how they fit in, especially Alcic. Obviously, he's got a big sort of reputation coming from Paris Saint-Germain and being touted as a top talent, but it hasn't really worked out that way so far. But he's still obviously young and can still dictate where his career goes.
I'm looking forward to seeing both of these teams, Ethan, because I haven't saw any of the games during the League Cup. I only saw the Hearts game against Dunfermline, and I think they won that one about 4-0 or something at Tynecastle. And it was nice to see the Hearts fans welcoming Neil Lennon back to Tynecastle as well, because I think they sang a kind of welcome song to him to say welcome back to Tynecastle, we missed you and all that kind of stuff. So and after Aberdeen, they would want to get off to a good start after winning the Scottish Cup. So it should be a good game under the lights at Tynecastle.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I spoke about this last night on the show, that it feels like, although it's the first game of the season and it's cliche, it feels like a real 6-pointer for these teams to lay down that early marker, because I think we're all looking at it thinking that it's going to be between they two and Hibs for that third spot. Hibs have obviously got off the mark. You expected them to yesterday at Dens Park, but you need to go there and win, and they've done that. And although they only won by 1 goal, it looked like a pretty controlled and solid performance by David Gray's team. And if Hearts and Aberdeen don't pick up a win, for either of them that don't pick up a win tonight, that's them already behind Hibs. So yeah, it'll be great for either team to put down an early marker in the league.
Robbie, I was just going to say to you, I don't think I've asked you this question about Derek McInnes being the Hearts manager. What do you think of that move? Do you think it's a good move?
I think it's a brilliant move. There was a lot of conversation at the time, Michael, about who is going to be the next Hearts manager. But Robinson's name was in the mix. You had Graham Arnold, the former Australian boss, in the mix as well. To me, McInnes was a standout candidate, and I think it's easy enough to say that after he's already been appointed. But I look at McInnes and I just think he's made for Hearts. I don't know, you just get that feeling certain managers are made for certain clubs. I look at McInnes, he's just built for Hearts. A lot of people are trying to maybe criticise his way of playing and his style, but I think his style works just fine. You know, he can adapt. He's an adaptive manager. We've seen it before. He's obviously managed Aberdeen before. I think at Kilmarnock, you know, he had to be a bit more defensive at points. I think coming into Hearts will be brilliant. Made some really good signings, and I was actually going to say that. I know you asked Stephen the question. I think the pressure's more on Hearts tonight than it is Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen, obviously, they'll want to start off well as well, but this is McInnes' first proper game. You know, this is the first competitive big game that he's taken charge. This is where he needs to sort of leave his mark and start off well. So I think the pressure's right on McInnes tonight.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it is. There's a lot of expectation over Hearts this season after the disappointment of last season, missing out on top 6 in Europe, obviously, altogether. They've not got that distraction this year, and a lot of people are backing them to sort of finish above Hibs and Aberdeen as a result of not having European football. If Hibs were to go out and either the next 2 rounds, then they obviously wouldn't have European football, so that wouldn't really weigh up against it. Although we've seen teams have the European hangover even from the qualifiers, but I don't think that'll happen to Hibs. But they've still obviously got a very solid chance to get into the Conference League. But for Hearts, they've started really well, and I know it's the League Cup and it's against teams in lower division. But if you include the 4 games and the friendly at the weekend against a very strong Sunderland team, it wasn't as if it was a Sunderland team that's been rotated and whatever. That looks pretty close to what they'll be playing in the Premier League in a lot of areas. So, and they beat them 3-0, and I know it's a testimonial and whatever, but I would take that as I know you can't look too much into pre-season friendlies, but that's a great result. And 19 goals in 5 games, so pretty much 4 goals a game. Only conceded 1 in that time. They are looking really good, but of course we haven't seen Aberdeen in a competitive match at all, as I said. So I'm really excited to see both these teams because I haven't got the chance to watch any of them obviously this season. And yeah, it's shaping up to be a really exciting game, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I think the atmosphere is going to be red hot under the lights, probably at Tynecastle, but I don't know if you guys have seen it, but obviously I've not seen it, but a lot of kind of Aberdeen fans might be slating the kick-off time as well, 8 o'clock on the Monday night, and I suppose like you could say that about the Hearts fans because we don't know where they're travelling from, but I mean Aberdeen fans could get down to Edinburgh and then I don't think they would have missed the last plane actually after the game. So it's a bad and fair for Aberdeen fans.
Well, Michael, it just became 100 times harder as we know the storm's been hitting Scotland quite bad today, and I'm led to believe all trains in the Aberdeen area are now cancelled. So that's probably an even harder step for Aberdeen fans to try and get into the game. Obviously, I don't know if the train lines have came back because I think the winds have calmed down a bit now, but if not, then, you know, what is the crowd going to be like? I think we had Paul on the show last night in the comments saying it's looking at about a 600 tickets Aberdeen fans have got. I wouldn't be surprised if that's slashed in half, you know, with people just maybe choosing to watch it on the TV instead of making the travel down.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate that the storm, obviously, I mean, you can't do anything about it, obviously, but the storm falls today, and there's that game. It's such a massive game for both teams, and you're right, Robbie. There will probably be a lot of people that will take the sensible, you could say, and safe approach and stay in and watch it at home, because that has been some of what we've been advised to do by the people that know a lot more than us. So yeah.
Oh, in terms of Aberdeen, just sticking with them for a minute, Ethan, what do you expect from Aberdeen tonight?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not. They've obviously got a few new signings in the team. I'll have to look at the actual lineup again because I've forgot it already. But I know Awalchich is in the starting 11, if that's how you say his name. But yeah, it'll be interesting because it's two teams that I know we've seen Hearts in the Premier Sports Cup. They look really good, but Aberdeen's a whole different ball game to what they've been playing against so far. Let me see. Well, it is a lot of what they had last season. I'm really excited to see Yenge up front. I think he could be a big player for Aberdeen this season. Keskinen again, he showed glimpses last season of his quality and why they paid so much money for him. And hopefully he can really blossom into a sort of really productive player, because they did pay a lot of money for him and they did pay for the potential of him. So that's what you hope to see from a player like that, growth every season. But yeah, it should be a really exciting game.
You mentioned Younger there, and that's interesting. I was having a look at his record, and he's not too prolific for a striker. He only scored, I think, 9 goals in 40 games last season for Portsmouth. Sorry, I think his international record's quite good. I think it's 6 and 11 for Australia, but he's not got the most high-profile goal-scoring chart if you look at his stats.
Yeah, no, definitely. Last season, I don't even know if he did score any goals for Portsmouth. The season before, I think he scored 13. But that's playing in the Championship as a sort of sub, and you would like to think that a player playing in the Championship can come over to the Scottish Premiership. A lot of the sort of how would I say it? A lot of the lower end of the Premiership is probably I think we equate it to League One if we're talking financially wise. So I think he should be able to do a lot better. And we'll have to see, obviously, but Hearts will be a tough test, a tough start for him. But up against a big, ugly back five could be where he thrives.
I think going on to the Hearts point that you made, Ethan, about the beat Sunderland and Testimonial as well, and obviously it's that kind of Scotland England as well that you want to beat your old enemies from down the road. And I know that you were saying about the League Cup and they're up against lesser opposition, but I think it was a bigger test for Derek McInnes this season as well, because that he's going into a bigger club, a bigger fan base, no disrespect to come out, and maybe more money than come out. I'm kind of looking at in from the outside here, but I think it was important for Hearts to do well in that Premier Cup.
Yeah, definitely, and it can really set your season off well if you start well in that competition. You get confidence, the fans buy into what you're trying to do if you're a new manager or if you're just a manager that's struggling. But if you have a poor start in that, you maybe drop a game or two, like Dundee did, obviously, and didn't make it out of the group, then you already get that pressure on your back. And for Stephen Presley, for example, then he's already got, I imagine, a lot of Dundee fans doubting him already, whereas Derek McInnes, I haven't watched the games, I can't say I have, but I'd imagine there's little to nothing that the Hearts fans can complain about so far, and that's really good. They've made a lot of signings, a lot of part with Tony Bloom's analytics, some Stuart Finlay, obviously, you would accredit to as a Derek McInnes signing. But yeah, it's really interesting to see what Hearts are going to do, because it's the start of the the long and maybe never-ending road to winning the league title if Tony Bloom's words are proven to be right.
Yeah, did anybody listen to that interview with Tony Bloom that he done?
No.
It was
I didn't
actually
listen to it. I didn't
very-
listen to it.
very
I've seen some quotes from it.
You made some very good points. It does, for a Hearts fan, taking away for the pitch and the signings that have been made, if you're looking from an investment point of view, you're absolutely buzzing with the direction of the club. Getting that amount of investment, Bloom's made it very clear he's not just here to, be third place and sort of fall behind the big two. He wants to really go and challenge them. It's something that I think all Hearts fans should be excited about.
I think that's kind of similar to your team, Robbie, Tony Fitzpatrick, a few seasons ago, but because he came in and basically said St Mirren's going to finish in the top six, we're going to get into Europe, and everybody was laughing at him, and a lot of people kind of ate humble pie as well, and I think if you're not going to be kind of ambitious, you don't get involved in football. Stephen Presley, if you're watching that, but it's good for people involved in teams like Hearts and Kilmarnock and Hibs and all that, kind of like talking up their clubs.
Aye, well, unfortunately, Fitzpatrick never put in 10 million into something, but he gave us some good passion, and I suppose he was right with his goals. We are now, in my opinion, a top six club, and it's interesting because you're looking at Hearts, and it's always the same conversation every season. Who's the third biggest club in Scotland? And it's always Hearts, Hibs, or Aberdeen. I don't think we have one solidified third best team. It changes every year. No one's ever consistent in that third place position. So it's always going to be nice to see a team maybe try and stamp their authority on that, and I think it could be Hearts. You're looking at their squad size this season, about 32, 33. I think they just actually signed a player before we came on air, about an hour ago, I'm led to believe. So they're looking like a pretty decent squad that can rotate really well in the league.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna add to the Tony Bloom point. Obviously, a lot of comparisons have been drawn between Hearts and Union Saint-Gilloise, who obviously won the Belgian league the year just gone for the first time in 90 years, I think it was, or something like that. And there's clubs in that league like Club Brugge, who are, I don't know, a very good Champions League team. Rangers could possibly play them in the playoff round. And I think the difference with Scotland is that Celtic and Rangers are so vastly supported compared to all the other teams in the league, and that may be the sort of stumbling block as to why it's so difficult for even with a £10 million investment. I mean, a £10 million investment isn't going to it's not going to close the gap. We can all see that. If he maybe sees progress with that investment and makes more investment, then possibly he catches Celtic and Rangers in a slump and can go for the title. As crazy it sounds, I would love to see it. I would love to see another team disrupt that. That's been when was the last time that someone outside of Celtic and Rangers won the league?
Aberdeen, it would have been under
and that was that in the 80s, was that? So a long time ago, and it would be nice to see, but I just can't see it.
I was listening to Chris Boyd and Sutton talk about that, and it was interesting. I think people forget that although a 10 million investment is brilliant, it all really comes down to sales. Celtic and Rangers factor in first of all the Champions League money on Celtic specifically. They're getting millions and millions of pounds for playing in that, and no other Scottish club can get near that because Celtic are getting it. But you also factor in player sales. Hearts can't go and sell a guy for £19 million like Celtic can do with Nicholas Kin. You know what I mean? So all that factored in it just becomes, in my opinion, a virtually impossible task if you look at finances, unless, as you said there, Ethan, a Tony Bloom wants to invest in more money, then it could be a possibility.
Yeah, it could be, and I think what needs to happen is that the Scottish coefficient, and it is heading this way, needs to really dry up to the point where it makes it really, really difficult for Celtic and Rangers to earn a lot of money off of the Champions League, to qualify for the Champions League. If Hearts can sort of do a little bit of catching up, maybe when Celtic and Rangers aren't getting Champions League and Europa League money, then possibly. But as you said, as long as Celtic are getting Champions League money most seasons, then no team financially is going to be able to get close to them, and isn't going to even be able to get close to the Rangers at the moment either.
I suppose, like, the turn it the other way then, if we are saying that, it's going to be a while until a team outside the big two wins the league. I mean, you just have to look at the cups. I mean, last season, Aberdeen, okay, you can say what you want about Celtic as well, but Aberdeen I think they got the tactics spot on in the day. And like, I know it's easier said in hindsight because the game was in May and now we're sitting here in a wet August Monday night. But like, all the talk was about Celtic winning the treble. Nobody focused on Aberdeen winning the cup, and I think that goes to I think that helps Aberdeen in a way because they would be quietly confident, but everybody's talking about, Celtic's going to win a treble under Brendan Rodgers, and the Guardian would be rosy, and then look what happened, Ethan.
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah, I think that was a really good moment for Scottish football. It showed that a lot of people, including myself, couldn't see the possibility of Aberdeen winning that match. I had Celtic down as big favourites. I mean, all you have to do is think of a few weeks before when Celtic's second string team pulled Aberdeen apart at Pittodrie, and you think, there's only going to be one result here, and it obviously didn't play out that way. And it shows that if teams find a way to play that the whole 11's confident in, they know what they're doing, then you can upset a Celtic or a Rangers when they're not playing at their best. The difficult point is to do that over a 38-game season is nigh on and impossible, because when you've got players like Callum McGregor, I think just the mentality he installs at Celtic is just, it's ridiculous, and that's why Celtic have won so much, I think. And yeah, maybe when he goes, the Celtic will be maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody could catch up to them, and Rangers. But I just don't see it happening. I really don't, and unless it's a miracle. But I really would love to see it happen, but I just don't think it will.
The main concern is consistency. No one outside the Rangers and Celtic can be consistent for 38 games in a season. Well, no team has got the squad depth, and that's where an interesting point comes into play, because you're looking at Hearts this season and they have a squad they can make 3 squads out of the numbers they have now. They have got a team that could show signs of consistency. The problem is, can they do it? And look, I'm not saying that Hearts are going to challenge Celtic or Rangers this season. I think they'll be far away from them, but it is a positive sign if we can start to see a bit of consistency for teams. I mean, Celtic can play Dundee at home on a Wednesday night and beat them 7-0, or travel to Dundee United in the past and put 9 by them. You know what I mean? No other club outside of Celtic, in my opinion, can really go and do that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I think last season it felt at points there was a lot of the splitting the Celtic and Rangers talk, because obviously at the time Aberdeen, they mounted quite a real decent lead above Rangers. All it took was Aberdeen not to fall off a cliff, and they were in with a real chance at least second place. And you pair that with Hibs' second half of the season, the run they went on, if they didn't start so terribly, then you put those 2 half seasons together and you've got a real good season. And I know it's if, buts and maybes, but that's all it really takes. And yeah, I think over the last, apart from that, obviously that COVID season, Celtic have been really consistent in every season. That's why it's so difficult to win the league. But I think before you talk about any other team winning the league, you need another team to get second before anything else. And yeah, hopefully we see that, because it would be really interesting, and then you can really start opening up the idea of someone outside the Celtic and Rangers winning the Scottish Premiership.
Definitely, and I think, Robbie, sorry for the 25 minutes, I think, of the show. and I'm going to talk about youngsters coming through the ranks. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, Hearts are going to win the league because they've begged against so many youngsters into the team. But I mean, I'll say it again. But I mean, I think if they put in one or two sprinkles of youth into the team, then they've got no fear kind of like going onto the park for beating Celtic, beating Rangers, or even beating Aberdeen tonight. I'm not saying they're going to have a perfect game every week, because who has a perfect game and who has a perfect day of work and all the rest of it. But I do feel though that if you give youth a chance, then you might see the blossoms in the future.
You're right. I think youth can always be a good thing. It's interesting when you're looking at this game. Then I'm looking at the lineup of both teams, and as far as I can count, I think there's only 4 Scottish players on. Well, if you pair up both starting 11s on the pitch, so I mean, everybody was having a go at Jim Giffen's Dundee United for fielding 0. I mean, surely you've got to have a go at Aberdeen then, because they're only playing 1. It's not even a youth player. It's Graham Shinnie at the back. So I mean, there's another point to bring up. But like, you're right. If these, I feel like the past couple of weeks it has become such a big talking point about Scottish players in lineups, and of course you want to see them. It makes you, I suppose, feel a bit better about the game when it's someone close to the country and maybe even close to your club. The amount of times homegrown talents have came through clubs and went on to do well. Always gives you a bit of sense of pride. But again, you're looking at the night and you're not really seeing many youth players, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I think the problem comes down to ultimately that the SFA are just not doing enough to enforce rules where the teams need to play a certain amount of players from certain amount of Scottish players or a certain amount of youth players, and it doesn't need to be ridiculous, but you need to put something in, because I think I've seen a thing that the SFA the Scottish Premiership is one of the worst leagues in the world for it. Even the English Premier League have more sort of regulations towards it and stuff like that. One example of, I think it fits Michael's point about you put players in and they show no fear against Celtic or Rangers was Jack Milne. I think he obviously got thrown in for the Scottish Cup final. If it wasn't for injuries, he probably wouldn't have started. He started at centre half. He was absolutely brilliant. And he looks to have sort of made his way into the starting 11 now. He's been starting games, and obviously he starts this massive game, and he looks like he's going to be a real player for Aberdeen and under Jimmy Tilleen this season. And that was just an experiment that Jimmy Tilleen tried. He put him in because he needed to. He didn't really have much else or options he could go to, and now he's got a player that looked really good in that game, has obviously looked really good throughout pre-season as to why he's starting in the central defence again.
I think the thing is that in terms of Scottish players, it is always difficult because you're noticing Aberdeen bringing in a Chuchi, obviously French international player. You're looking at all these markets that teams are now gone to and picking players out of. It just becomes increasingly more difficult to fit Scottish players in, because the players we're bringing in, no disrespect to our Scottish players, but they're just better. They have more experience playing league games, and that is the main problem. You're right, Michael. These Scottish players are not getting a chance to play league games, so they're not developing, they're not getting shown there in the market. Whereas St Mirren can go to Jamaica, or Aberdeen can go down to England and go to Australia and pick up Yengi and bring them in already having experience. That's probably the big major concern.
And you know what? I think a massive contributor towards the lack of minutes given to the young Scottish players as well is because the way the league's set up, and there was obviously big chats about switching the league and the format and whatever, but you look at last season, every team had something to play for pretty much right until the end of the season. Teams were playing for European places. St Mirren even, who looked dead and buried, nearly clawed back a European place. In the bottom 6, it was so tight for ages. Whereas if you stretch that league out, maybe make it, I don't know, a 16-team league, for example, then there's a lot more sort of teams in the middle that are not really playing for they're playing for obviously to win and to finish the season the best they can. But it's easier to field youth players if you're not facing relegation or not qualifying for Europe, as to where in the league there's not really any room for that when it gets into the post-split fixtures at the minute.
Can you imagine we've done one season in Scotland where every club needs to have at least 5 homegrown players in their squad, or like at least 1 or 2 playing? Like, you get these Spanish clubs that can only sign players for like a homegrown. Could you imagine we had that in Scotland where you could only have players that are homegrown? That would make it so much more interesting.
Yeah,
See, in terms of like the team tonight, Ethan, like we talked. We started talking at the top about Derek McInnes. It's a big season for him at Hearts and the Hearts fans. But I think like the Hearts fans would be delighted with the business so far, in terms of they've got a kind of high profile manager, Derek McInnes, who did well with Aberdeen. But also another one for me is handing on to Lawrence Shanklin, because I mean, how many times did we speak about on the show last season if he was going to Rangers or any kind of other clubs as well? And well done to Hart for kind of shutting people kind of like out the door basically. But I wanted to ask you about another player as well, like Cabangu for Hearts. I mean, I think he's a quite a decent player, but I would maybe put him on the same bracket as, maybe I'm going to get a bit stick here when I say this, Dethers and Adam Eder. He misses so many good chances, but yet he scores a lot of goals as well.
Yeah, he can't even get into the starting 11. So I think I was going to make this point that I think Hearts have maybe the best striker selection in the league. When you look at it, you've got Lawrence Shanklin and Braga starting, then you've got Elton Cabangu and James Wilson who can't even get in the starting 11, and so that really shows how much Hearts have strengthened this season. And yeah, I think Elton Cabangu last season he showed up in some real tough moments for Hearts when the goals dried up for most of the season for Lawrence Shanklin, but when he came in on loan. He was from USG, wasn't he? Yeah, he was on loan from Union St Gilloise, obviously one of the other clubs that Tony Bloom has shares in. And yeah, he brought some goals. He did miss loads of chances in that game against Rangers, I remember. But yeah, he's a really good addition, and they've made really good additions across the board, Hearts, and they look really solid in all areas. And yeah, I think they have the chance to make a real push this season on all fronts, and especially for third place, because I think that'll be the number one goal for Derek McInnes and the Hearts board.
Yeah, just to remind people that Hearts and Aberdeen kicks off at 8 o'clock tonight, and we'll be back on at 10 o'clock doing the night shift here on the Football Zone, Scottish Football Zone. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter, and you can sign up to our YouTube channel. Fun enough, it's just called Scottish Football Zone. Just set for that, and and you can join us on the YouTube channel as well. I mean, just come back to the team news, Robbie. I mean, how important was it for Hearts to, as I was saying to Ethan, to hold on to Lawrence Shanklin? Because obviously, I think that because of pressure's off now, and okay, the window's still open, but how important is it for him and Hearts for him to go back to scoring goals for Hearts?
It's massive, but I would love nothing more than James Wilson to break his spot. Honestly, if we could get a player like James Wilson, who's still youngish and so fresh to the game, and he could take out Lawrence Shanklin, who had that fantastic season a couple of seasons ago, it'd be absolutely brilliant. But just to run through the team news, because credit to BBC, they actually put it in position so they know what they're doing. On the Hearts end, it is Clark and goals, a back three of Kent, Halkett and Finlay. Bot, Skrevich, right wing back, and Harry Milne at left wing back. The three centre mids are McKenty, Devlin, and Spittle. And up front, as mentioned, it is Shanklin and Braga. On the Aberdeen side, it's Mitov and goals, a back four of Jensen, Milne, Noster, and Shinnie. Nilsson is the right mid, Keskin and left mid. Clarkson, Milanovic, the two centre mids, in front is Achuti and up front is Yenge. But Michael, you're right. As Big Shankland gets back to scoring goals, there's a certain former Motherwell striker that I'm sure you all know that had a really good season in the Premiership and then sort of tailed off a bit on his goal record. I wonder if that could be the same for Shankland this season if he tails off a bit again. But it's big. I mean, look, Hearts need to be crucial in front of goal tonight. That is what's going to make or break this game. Aberdeen are a well-drilled side under Tilling. They've got good attacking threat as well. Obviously excited to see some of the new players in action. But Hearts will need to be good in front of goal if they want to win this game.
Yeah, and I think the real positive for Hearts this season compared to last season is that the accusation was that, I think Hearts thought this as well. We've got Lawrence Shankland, the player of the year. He's going to score all our goals. We don't need any more strikers. They obviously got stung by that because Lawrence Shankland started the season pretty poorly, and I think he would say that himself. They didn't really have anyone else. Obviously, they brought James Wilson through, but they didn't really have anyone else they could replace him with. But now they have, as I mentioned before, and as you mentioned there, Robbie, they have James Wilson, they have Elton Kabangu. So as soon as Lawrence Shankland, I know he's the captain and he's their talisman, but as soon as he's went a few games, he's struggling or whatever, Derek McInnes will just take him out of the team and replace him, and there'll be someone else that's hungry to fight for a starting place coming in, and that's what you need. You need competition for places. That's what drives the best out of players, and that's what Hearts have started doing. They've got a really good starting 11 there, and I haven't actually looked at the bench yet, but yeah, a really solid bench as well. You've got players like Alexandros Kizaridis, I think it is, the Greek winger that they signed. He looks pretty good, scored 2 goals in the Premier Sports Cup, so they've got a really strong squad there, and you can see what they're trying to build, and you can say the same for Aberdeen as well. A really strong team. They've made some nice additions to the squad that was obviously pretty good last season. I mean, it's not too far off that Aberdeen team that started off the season with, what was it, 7 wins on the bounce, I think, before they went to Celtic Park and got a point. So Jimmy Tillane is capable of doing amazing things with Aberdeen as well. We shouldn't forget that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how these teams match up and how they look for the season ahead.
And if you're interested, speak to the ref tonight, it's Mick Walsh, and the video assistant ref is Kevin Clancy, just in case people's just tuning in for that. I'm sure they're not, but there you go. I'm a nice person. I can give you that as well. Yeah, I mean, after Aberdeen, that Marofsky, Claxton, Harry Mill as well, Graham Shinney, Robbie. I'm hoping that we're going to be in for a cracker of a game.
I hope so. I think it'll be a very open game. I think Hearts might just start the game better if I had to make a prediction, just because it's under, McInnes' first league game at Tynecastle. The fans will be rolling them on, him and the team. So I expect Hearts might start the game better, but don't get me wrong, Aberdeen can come right into it. They've got the talent there. Leighton Clarkson's one that I'm pretty sure he had an injury at some point last season as well, but he really struggled to maybe find a bit of consistency. So we're yet to still see the best of him. Obviously, we spoke about Achuchi in there, and at the sort of 10 spot, if you will. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on a bit further up the pitch, if he can provide the buzz to Yenge. But the one thing with Aberdeen with me, and I'm looking at the back four, and it's a very similar look back four to maybe what we've seen last season. And I think for all that Ethan mentioned about how good Aberdeen's first half of the season was, they maybe just lacked a bit in defence in the second half. I thought they were quite vulnerable. You can see goals at times, so maybe that's a place that Aberdeen might look to try and maybe screw a nut in at some point. And by the way, I mentioned this on the show last night, but I'm excited to see how Shinney handles some of these pacey wingers that Hearts have brought in. Obviously, he is quite an older player. He's very smart, as I said last night on the show, but he's not the fastest, so he'll maybe need to be careful of that fullback spot when coming up against this Hearts team.
Yeah, that is an area I think I would look at if I was Jimmy Tillane. Graham Shinney's been an excellent servant for Aberdeen, but I think you want him deployed in the middle of the park where he's best, and because he's never been the fastest player, and you don't want him at the age he is having to chase wingers or keep up with wingers. So yeah, I think you'd rather have him in that midfield, probably alongside Nelson, but maybe with the introduction of Awelcic, it means that there's not really space in the midfield for Shinnie with what he's trying to do, or he can't fit in all the players he wants to fit in that midfield. So he puts Shinnie back, and you still utilise the experience of Graham Shinnie from the left back position. But I was just looking there at the last time that Aberdeen won at Tynecastle, and it wasn't, the last time was 2017, so over 8 years ago, I think, unless I'm mistaken. So
am I right in saying that that's the same for both teams? So when Hearts travel to play Pittodrie, they've got a pretty poor record there as well.
I think so. I think it's one that's usually either a draw or won by the home team. So it shows how much of a tough job Aberdeen have got on their hands going there, and how much a state. I mean, if Aberdeen win tonight, it would be a massive statement to everyone that sort of doubts them in the league this season. And I'm not saying doubt meaning they don't finish top 6 or whatever. I mean doubt them saying that Hearts and Hibs will finish above them, because I don't think Jimmy Tillene will be very happy with that, and he'll want to show from the start where his team look like finishing this season.
Sorry, Mike, I was just to say, I'm a victim of putting Aberdeen in the bottom 6. I put them 7th this season. But I think Europe might affect them. It's interesting, obviously, we found out about every Scottish team's European opponents. Aberdeen, I'm not going to claim I know too much about FCSB, but for what I know, they're a highly reputable team in Europe. You know, you always sort of see their name kicking about somewhere, and obviously they've still got a game to play. They might not even win that, but I suspect they probably will. So that'll be something that Aberdeen will want to do as well. You know, you spoke about putting a good stamp on their season, kick off, build good momentum going into Europe if they can get a few wins under their bit.
Yeah, and that was something that a lot of people are saying, that obviously Aberdeen are the only team apart from Celtic and Rangers that have got guaranteed league phase football, and in the past that's obviously negatively affected teams domestically, and we've seen it. They've not had the squads to balance both competitions, but I think Aberdeen will be able to do it a little bit better this season just because of how they've strengthened. But I think Hibs and Hearts have got stronger squads, and they'll be able to manage the load better, I would say. Although, just to touch on Aberdeen's draw, I think it's not an easy one, but they were never going to get an easy one. But it's one of the sort of the better draws they could have got, I think, against FCSB. Rangers beat them pretty comfortably, I remember, at Ibrox last season in the league phase, although I think they did either finish in the top 8 of Europa League phase, or they were very close to it. So that shows the sort of quality they've got, that they're not just a sort of qualifying Europa League team, they're a team that's went in the Europa League and done pretty well. So it'll be a massive task for Aberdeen, no doubt, but if they play their best, then maybe they can catch their remainings out across 2 legs. And I mean, we're saying this, I would imagine they'll beat FC Drita. I don't really see a scenario where they don't, but
what I will say is they're on bad form right now. They've lost the last 4 games, so you know it's not all been great for them so far. They're sitting 12th in the league after 4 games, won 1, drawn 1, and lost 2. So maybe Aberdeen might catch them off in a bit of poor form.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, obviously both sides would want to get off to a good start, because next weekend, I'm just looking at the fixtures. Obviously, Aberdeen's got Celtic coming to town on Sunday, and then Hearts has got a difficult away game up at your pals, Jim Goodwin, Dundee United, Robbie.
It's 2 tough games for both teams. Obviously, Dundee United will be playing in Europe during the week. I'm not sure if Aberdeen are this week in Europe, but it's still a bit to go before they play. But like that'll be 2 tough games. Obviously, Aberdeen, I'd argue, have probably get the tougher of the 2 games playing against Celtic. Obviously, I think probably no probably maybe fancy yourself actually in that game. It'll be interesting to speak about that next week, depending on who Celtic have maybe signed. But it'll be a tough sort of few weeks still to come for both teams. You know, Aberdeen obviously respectively in Europe. So I will just need to see what happens.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting. And Aberdeen, I think I forgot to make this point. I was going to make it and then another. But I was going to say Aberdeen don't have Europe at the moment. I think it'll be 2 weeks on Thursday. Their first game is. So that's still a bit of time. I think they probably play 2 league games and then the Premier Sports Cup last 16 game before Europe. So that's a chance to get. And I know it's not the two ideal fixtures you want at home to Celtic and away Hearts. If you were picking fixtures, you wouldn't be picking they ones. But that's not to say that Aberdeen can't pick up maybe 6 points. I'm not saying that's out of the question, but maybe 4 points. Maybe even they would take 3 points. But if they get off to a good start and get those two fixtures out the way, then there's easier ones down the road, you would say, and then they can maybe balance it a little bit better with Europe. Because obviously Aberdeen are going to be in Europe regardless of how they get on against FCSB or FC Drita.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, looking at tonight's game, Robbie, I mean, just Jimmy Talleen's sake sitting for like the first 50 minutes or maybe frustrate the home fans?
I don't think I'll certainly not be his game plan to sit back, but as I mentioned earlier, naturally with the tempo of Hearts and the way they'll start with the crowd, it probably will be a case of they'll maybe need to sit in for 10-15 minutes, make it a bit interesting. But I do suspect Aberdeen will have their moments of quality. I certainly think they'll show attacking intent. And I could see this being a crack of their game. As I said, I wouldn't surprise me if there was a few goals in this game.
Yeah, and hopefully there is, because this is the weeks where the games are all on Sky Sports, because they've not got the Premier League's obviously not started yet, so they're just using up their weekends with the Scottish Premiership slots, and if the games are entertaining, which I think they have been on Sky Sports so far, entertaining and competitive, then it sends a good message to not just Sky, but the people maybe that don't usually tune into the Scottish Premiership, watching maybe in England or across the UK, and maybe they go, "Oh, that was a good game between Hearts and Aberdeen. I'm going to watch them again," and that's what we want to do, because that will only help the Scottish game as a whole.
Okay, before we go, guys, it's time to get the score predictions terribly wrong indeed. Even though, Robbie, I nearly got the Clark score right at the weekend, actually. I think I said, did you not see 3-2 in that game? Maybe I'm making that up. Robbie, what do you think the score prediction will be tonight between Hearts and Aberdeen?
4-2 to Hearts. I think it'll be a high scoring game, and I think McInnes will start halfway a win.
Even?
I'm going to go with Hearts 2, Aberdeen 2. I'm sitting on the fence.
Oh. It's a bit windy to do that nightly enough, Ethan. But yeah, brave man. I'll say 2-1 to Hearts. So there you go. I'm not sitting on the fence because I don't think the fence can take me, and I can't take the fence. So we'll be back at 10 o'clock for the post-match show, looking back at the exciting 90 minutes. Hopefully, fingers crossed and all that. Don't forget, you can sign up to our new YouTube channel for the Scottish Football Zone on YouTube, and also you can find us on X as well. Thanks to Ethan and thanks to Robbie. As I say, we'll be back at 10, looking back at the 90 minutes from Tynecastle between Hearts and Aberdeen, and we'll see you at 10.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.